have two amazing gentlemen that I had met over, I would say, a little over a year ago. I met Chase first, and then I met Mr. Andrew English. And so I'm bringing them on Mighty Men Thursday to talk to us a little bit more about our financial health, right? And well-being. And you guys know I always like to bring you individuals that are going to help us, right? In any way that they can to make sure that we're doing what we need to do, especially when it comes to our finances. So let me bring them up on the stage. Hey, Chase, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Good, good. And let me bring Andrew to the stage. Hey, Mr. English, how are you?
Camera isn't on. I'm not sure why.
Good deal. So I'm going to go ahead and let you both introduce yourselves in whatever order you would like to, right? Let us know where we can follow you on social media, and then we will get into the topic of your choice.
Go ahead, Andre. You can.
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Andre English. It's great to be on the show. I appreciate you. We are with the Shift Coalition, so that's where you'll be able to find us on socials. Hold on, I'm pulling it up right now so I can give you the exact details. Um, but it is Shift Coalition on Instagram. That's SHYFT Coalition. So at Shift Coalition on Instagram. And that is our main social media. We do have other platforms, but that's the one that gets the most love and attention. You can follow us there, and then from there, you'll be able to find all of our other social media outlets. So, um,
Okay, great, great. Thank you for that.
there he
Okay.
is.
Hey,
Yeah,
Chase, how
my
are you?
I'm all right. I have two cameras on my computer, and one of them hasn't woken up yet. So
Okay.
my apologies. Went on ahead and got the second one going. Thank you for being here or allowing us to be here.
Okay. Yes, please go ahead and introduce yourself. Andre gave his introduction.
Yes, I'm Chase K. Smith, founder and CEO of the Shift Coalition, and Andre is our working harder than me president, who I'm glad was able to join us this morning. And Shift actually is an acronym spelled SHYFT, and it stands for Shift How You Financially Think. And that is what our goal is. I've been a financial strategist for almost 15 years, and I look at myself more as a financial educator than anything else. And one of the things that stuck with me as I was going through my financial career is coming to the realization that the same people who control our education system profit from our financial ignorance. And this is why none of us get a proper financial education in school, in high school in particular. Our education system could very easily be designed to everything we learn from kindergarten to 12th grade, they could pack into kindergarten and 11th grade. And then 12th grade just be all about preparing us for life, giving us that solid financial education, teaching us about credit, teaching us about taxes, teaching us about the importance of real estate, teaching us about banking and interest, all of these things, but they don't. And we're taught, because of that, we're taught to work hard for our money. And all we do is work hard for our money and pay bills and repeat. And we're never taught the power of putting your money to work for yourself, and that's what the Shift Coalition is all about. Our goal is to teach you this information, give you that financial education that you didn't receive, none of us really received, and then giving you the financial tools you need to put that education to work. And in doing so, you're able to shift how you look at banking. You're able to shift how you look at your 401k. You're able to shift how you look at, equity that you may have sitting in your home, things of that nature. And doing so is a life-changing scenario because it allows you to, as I said, let your money do the hard work and you get to focus on the important things, your family. No more dropping your children off at daycare at a few months old. You get to go sit in the classrooms with your children and see what the teachers are teaching and be more a part of their life, because you're not stressed about your finances all the time because you have help. And your help is your money working for you instead of you just working for your money. So that's what we're all about. And I appreciate you again for having us here.
Yeah, and that's definitely a mindset because to your point, people don't look at their money actually working for them. Now, I know we're in a recession. I know a lot of people like, no, we're not. Yes, we are. We've been in a recession for a while. And in that, people have still been able to make money. So for me, one of the questions I would pose to both of you is what suggestions would you give to somebody right now in this economy and ways to help their money work for them?
Our main thing is introducing people to financial tools versus investments. And financial tools are the difference, meaning if you're dealing with investments, you're turning your money over to said situation and you're waiting for that to pay you back, but it locks your money up. It doesn't provide flexibility, leverage, things of that nature. If you're using financial tools, then you still have control of your funds. You still have control of your money. But while you have control of it, it's working for you. You have these tools, whether it's trading buys, whether it's professional traders, whether it's interest bearing policies, things that we introduce people to. But these tools are what you're putting to work for you. Let the tools work. And it's not just the things we introduce people to. We teach people how to go find these. But we also make sure you understand what to look for so that you're not falling for different scams and things of that nature. I saw one of your shows about scams and how easily it is for people to get pulled in because they're preying on that lack that people have. So we teach you don't look at those things. Don't get caught into something that we teach in the community, FOMO, which is fear of missing out. If you understand what to look for, you can work through that. And it's a very simple process. But that's the important thing. Using financial tools to put your money to work for you and developing that mindset and staying in that mindset and getting away from, well, I still have to work hard.
Right,
Using
right. And
financial
Andre?
technology. Yeah, using financial technology or fintech is important,
Yes.
um, because it gives you an advantage. And then, of course, that ability to control your money and give it multiple jobs, right? To be able to allow the money that you have to work in multiple areas. So having the same dollar, it's kind of like we've grown up and we've heard about the idea of, keeping the black dollar in the community kind of idea, right? Like the more times it can circulate within the community, the stronger it is for the community. Well, if that's true for the community, if a principle is a principle, it has to work in multiple areas, not just one, right? So if it works in the community to do that, then it makes more sense to have that same dollar circulate in your household multiple times, right? Doing multiple jobs in order to strengthen your household. So it's the same principle. So if we can put this stuff to work, right? And make your dollars work on your behalf, basically turning your dollar into a little mini army, going out and capturing more dollars and bringing them back, giving it a job, then you'll be better off financially. And then along with that process, if you can increase your financial literacy, the literacy part is very, very important to understand and how money works and understand how to apply it, understand charts, understand what the financial markets are, how they work, how they operate. If you can begin to understand that stuff, then it opens up so many different avenues for you. I always talk about when I began to gain financial literacy, it was at a time where my daughter was like 3 years old, right? And so she was also learning how to read. She was learning how to become literate. And I remember um, that I used to drive her up and down the street to see her great aunt all the time, right? She loved her aunt, right? And her whole life, we've been going up and down the street. And it wasn't until she began to start to read that all of a sudden she would say, "Daddy, that says stop," And then she'd look out of the car and say, "That says car." And then it was like, "That says car wash," and that says Walmart. And what dawned on me is I was learning financial literacy while she was learning how to read. And what I realized is she had been driving up and down that street her whole life, but because she was illiterate, she couldn't see any of the opportunity around her. And just like
Mm,
her, I had been driving up and down the financial streets my whole life, but because I was illiterate, I couldn't see any of the opportunity that had been around me. So most of my life, you're sitting there thinking, man, we're struggling, or man, things are hard. And it's not hard because it's hard. It's hard because you're illiterate. And once you become literate, all of a sudden there's so many opportunities. It's like you really are walking in a blessing. You really are seeing abundance all around you because of the fact that you've gained some literacy. So that's
Right.
one of the other strategic and most important things about the SHIFT Coalition is we provide that financial literacy for you. We teach you how to look at markets, how to not have FOMO, how to have these things, and we provide it with live education on a regular basis.
Right. And with wealth being something that is could be generational, right? It isn't, only because, to your point, people are financially illiterate, right?
Yes.
It is what it is. But again, I want to get back to the economy. I guess one of my other questions is, people have talked about, buying a home and having, real estate, having that asset that can be passed down generationally. With some of the financial literacy that you've come across, what would you say would be a good starting point for people to learn more about how to make an asset like a home work for them, or even getting a home?
Um, I'll say this: when you talk about anything going from, when you talk about generational wealth, we use forever money versus generational wealth in our community. You have to bring trust into play, because just because you have a home or you have these assets, if they're not properly protected, that means nothing as far as passing it down to the next generation. We also bring in, we have a system called smart lock banking, which helps you through insurance, through the world of insurance, protect your assets. And if you tie that to trust, then you have a system that, you have the trust own everything, and the trust is the beneficiary of everything. So the trust would own the home. And when, as people are going through, or the families coming through, generation after generation, the trust is what owns the home. But the thing is, if your trust owns the home, now the tax laws and everything are different in regards to that. You know what I mean? So it really becomes, it's really a system. It's not a hard system. It's not difficult to understand. You've just never been taught it, and you don't have access to the tools that you need to make it happen. So we're not, it's, when it comes to what people want to do with their money, we just encourage you to be smart. So if people like real estate, we're not saying don't invest in real estate. But there's things that you can do with your money so that when you're investing in your real estate, it's making you money in other places while it's making you money with real estate. So that's really what we're about. It doesn't matter what you want to do. We're not trying to steer you in any particular way. If you're into real estate, we encourage you learn more about real estate. We're going to help you earn enough income so that you can go to serious real estate seminars. If you're into trading, then yes, learn more about trading. But there's things you can do with your money before you use it to trade, where it's earning income for you while you're using it to trade. So that's our thing. That's what we're talking about. Just making sure you're putting your money to work in multiple places. And in doing so, it also mitigates risk. So, just as an example, if you put your money into a vehicle that's earning you 10% a year, and now you're turning around and you're trading that money, you've already mitigated your risk by 10%. So, whatever you're earning with that money, you still have to lose that plus 10% a year. You know what I mean? When you start playing with the numbers like that, you really start to see you can't lose if you
Mhm.
know what you're doing. So that's what we're all about. Whatever you want to do, you should get educated about it. We're just going to help you strengthen your money so when you're ready to do it, you have more to deal with, and it's also protected.
Okay. Okay. Absolutely. Andre?
So, like, just kind of a real world example without, because you were talking about real estate, right? When someone
Hmm.
is looking at real estate, they usually have to save up a down payment. Okay, this is what we mean by putting your money to work in multiple places. So, what Chase was talking about with smart lock is you can smart lock that money, right? And then once you smart lock that money for the down payment, you can borrow against your smart lock. It acts as a bank, just like you would have a regular bank in essence, right? And then you can now take that money and now go use it for a down payment. But now that you've given that money the job of the down payment, the money is still growing with interest and dividends as if you never took the money out, right? So now you have a different option. Now your money is working multiple jobs. Now that money returns to you based off of the rule of 72 within say 10 years. That money is back in your account as if you never spent it, even if you never pay it back yourself. So now you've given it the opportunity to get you a house and it's still earning interest as if you've never taken the money out. That is something that's called financial intelligence, right? The ability to be able to do that. By putting it in a trust, you avoid probate, right? So therefore the trust can control, your children can't mess it up. You can say this property can't be sold for 200 years, whatever you want to do, you can make sure that your stuff is protected and it actually becomes generational. And these are the conversations that we need to begin to have,
Mm-hmm.
around family dinner tables and so forth. But it starts with one person in the family becoming literate, right? Because
Right.
what I have found is that throughout history, it doesn't matter how far we go back, when someone becomes illiterate, it breaks illiteracy in the family forever because they begin to teach the other people of the family what to do. So most of us know about and understand, especially in our community, right? Like this idea of being literate and going to college and getting that education, but that education is designed solely to teach us how to be employed. That is
Mm-hmm.
literally what the function of the university system is to teach you how to get a job. It does not teach you how to get wealth. So we need another literacy, another place to come to get that literacy, right? Because that other literacy was important, right? As we moved and transitioned through slavery and all the different things that we came out of, right? Jim Crow
Right.
and civil rights and all that other stuff. But
Right.
now we are in a free enterprise economic system. We have to have another literacy that teaches us how to succeed in that space. And then I know our people will go out and do just that, right? And so that's what we provide at Shift.
I want
Right.
to piggyback on something important he just said. A lot of people feel like someone in the family has to get rich first, and then you can start the generational wealth process. Someone in the family has to become financially literate. That is what starts the generational wealth process. Because as soon as you become financially literate, you realize how easy it is to get your hands on the money you need to put to work for you. So that's a very big misconception. Nobody has to make the MBA. Nobody has to, get left the big something that great grandmom had, and nobody realized great grandmom had $1.5 million sitting somewhere. You know what I mean? That type of thing. The one who becomes financially literate, that's where it all starts. Because as soon as they see it, they're going to care enough to not let the rest of their family go through that same process. And that's what I think we really need to drive home.
And then one
Okay.
more thing to piggyback on that is that we mentioned the idea of scammers and different things of that nature, right?
Mhm.
And so this is
Yeah.
why I think, to Chase's point, that people want to see someone in the family actually get wealthy first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So in the Bible it says that you're supposed to be a good fruit inspector, right? But being a good fruit inspector is important. But if you come across someone who has who is just starting out, but they can connect you to someone who has good fruit, right? Maybe their fruit hasn't borne fruit yet, but they're learning the same techniques as the person who has good fruit. But as long as they're willing to not be your ceiling and they're willing to connect you to the people that have fruit, then you can listen to that person as well, right? Because they're connecting you to, they're a good fruit inspector themselves, and they're connecting you to the source that has fruit. So to Chase's point, when you're out there, if you're listening to this podcast, right, and you're like, hey, there's someone in my family who's trying to teach me about crypto, but they don't really have a lot of crypto yet, or they're trying to teach me about life insurance, but they don't even have their policy yet, or whatever it may be. It may be that they're working through the process. They're at the beginning, but they're learning from a source that actually has good fruit. And so, therefore, you can go to that source as long as they're willing to pass you to it, and you can still begin the process as well. So, you don't have to wait until somebody else. It takes a long time for you to put that seed in the ground, for the tree to grow
Mhm.
up, and for fruit to be born, right? So therefore, you don't want to wait, because that's a lot of years of your life that you could have been tending the soil and you could have been doing the stuff necessary for your fruit to grow. So therefore, you want to get started right away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of how the wealth of the Rockefeller Foundation came about, right? They don't produce anything, they don't sell cars, they don't manufacture anything, yet they are one of the wealthiest families, on record that
Yeah.
we know of. And what they were able to do is they were able to put trust in place, and they were able to actually develop what we call, you're not calling it generational wealth, but it that's what happened
You know,
for them.
what's interesting about the Rockefeller family? We actually teach about the Rockefeller family in our classes. One of our books that we recommend is What Would the Rockefellers Do? The Rockefellers use a system of insurance. We teach and plug people into the exact same type of system. When a child is born, they put an insurance policy on child's head, let's say for $1 million. That $1 million grows in interest and dividends till child turns 21. When child turns 21, child gets access to money. Even when child takes money, it still grows in interest and dividends like they didn't take the money. So now that child has X amount of millions of dollars to go grow the family fortune. If you get, Jimmy the gambler and he takes his money and goes and blows it all running around the casinos of the world, the family's like, okay, he messed up his money, but it's still growing like he never touched it. So when he passes away, that $1 million that they started with on him gave him all the money he needed in his life and added an additional 20 million in death benefit back to the family fortune. So now there's another million for 20 more kids, and they've been doing this for generations. That is why the Rockefeller family has the money they have. One person made it, and they started dumping it into the system of insurance. That's all. It's so easy. It's laughable, sis. It really is.
Oh, like
It's
insurance and trust.
yes.
Those are the two things they
That's it.
work in tandem. But like I said, they're multimillionaires. But they have no liabilities,
Mm-hmm.
right? They do not have any company. They do not have
Yep.
any employees, but they run the world. And when I
Yep.
say that, it's because their money has been working for them in politics, right? And influencing how manufacturers do their job, influencing the Federal Reserve,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just the influence that
Mm-hmm.
they've been able to attain through
Mm-hmm.
insurance and trust. Two
Yep.
things.
So
Yep.
there's something important to understand about what you just said with those last two words, and that is you said insurance and trust. And why this is important and why your listeners can know that what we're talking about works, right, is because one, banks use it and they know the bank works, right? So, but that's another
Mhm.
thing. But the second thing is that all of those things, insurance and trust, predate the tax code. I just gave
Mhm.
y'all a huge nugget.
Mm-hmm.
Insurance and trust predate the tax code. I'll let y'all look that up because I'm not a tax strategist. So I don't want to say anything
Right.
on here, but I'll just say that they predate
Mhm.
the tax code. And if most people realize your biggest expense of life for most people is not their home, it's the amount of income tax that they'll pay federally and state. And if you can mitigate that so that you can keep some of the wealth in your household, you already have a strategic advantage over everybody else. Because if you can understand how to mitigate taxes, right? Because that's the
Mhm.
biggest expense that you will have in your life
Yeah.
besides your home, let's say, right?
Mhm.
And for most people, it's more than their home. So,
Yes.
so
Yes.
if you understand what I just said,
Mm-hmm.
these two concepts, insurance and
Mhm.
trust, predate the tax code, which
Yeah.
gives
Yeah.
you another strategic advantage, and also gives you an advantage because when you die, if your stuff is wrapped up in those trusts that you don't own anything, you died, but the trust never did. So
Mm-hmm.
therefore, the tax stuff that happens at death does not happen.
Mm.
Again, not a tax strategist. Will allow someone to consult a certified CPA, but trust
Right.
me when I tell you, I just gave you a huge gem. It predates the tax code.
Wow.
And when we talk about shift how you financially think. He says something important. Keeping more of the money you're making. People don't think about keeping more of the money you're making. You just make money, spend it, it goes wherever it goes, and you go make more money. If you focus on keeping more of the money you're making, you have to work less for to bring in more money. But nobody talks about that.
Mhm.
Nobody makes people focus on those things. So if you're dealing with taxes being your biggest bill, then it just makes sense to learn how to keep more of it. And we see wealthy people not pay taxes, but we think, well, they don't
Mhm.
pay taxes because they're wealthy. No, they're actually obligated to a whole lot more taxes because they're wealthy. Paying taxes on 10,000 versus paying taxes on 100,000 is a very big difference in the bottom line. But if you understand that the IRS says you have to pay these taxes unless people stop at unless, we
Mhm.
say no, you start with unless. And you start seeing, as long as you do this and you do that, and you have these things paid a certain ways, then you get these breaks and advantages and things of that nature. And people don't want to put in the work to do that. They would rather just put in the work to make more money. That is shifting how you think. That's time out, pause, let's think about this. Let's patch up the holes in the bucket so you don't have to keep filling it up, running back and forth to fill it up. When you fill it, it stays. Now you only got one or two holes with the water running out. Now you got time to wash your face and all that stuff. You pour it in, turn around and go to wash your face. It's like, you know what I mean? That's what happens
Mhm.
with people's finances. So we want to get people to think that way about everything. But it's just that shift. Never mind work hard. Let's focus on keeping.
Wow. Well,
So,
thank you guys so much for joining me here. I'll let you have last words.
um, well, I'll take that first and give it to Coach Andre. But we just invite people to check us out, as he said, shiftcoalition.com, SHYFT. That is the landing page for our private online community. We teach classes. We teach about 10 classes a week, all online, all free. Come check us out. We guarantee you, you join us for one class, you will be back because it's impossible to miss the value that we offer. And I appreciate you for having us here, sis.
Yes,
Coach.
thank you.
Reiterate that, except I like to change the word from free to live, right? And I say
Yeah.
this all the time because people don't value free, right?
Mhm.
People don't value free. And what we provide has tremendous value. So come check us out, come sit in on a class and learn about the different pillars because it's not just a Shift Coalition. We actually have a system that if you apply it, will actually benefit you. And it's something that you can benefit from immediately, not necessarily years down the road, right? You can benefit immediately and years down the road, but we want to get to that immediate as well. So come check us out. We'd be happy to have you.
Appreciate you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I will make sure to post those links when I repost this segment of our show. So thank you again so much for joining me and joining me so early. I appreciate both of you guys.
Not early, it's late from yesterday.
Right, right. Well, thanks again and looking forward to having you guys on the next time for Mighty Men Thursday. Thank you for
All
joining.
right.